In today's episode, we welcome Blaine Little, founder of Momentum Seminars, to discuss his journey from military service to successful entrepreneur, corporate trainer, and author. Blaine shares how his path was shaped by a series of lessons learned from challenging environments and mentors, which eventually led him to a career in real estate and then into training and coaching. He reflects on his early struggles with unhelpful leadership, which inspired his commitment to helping others avoid those same pitfalls by providing meaningful training and support. Blaine details his transition from working with large seminar companies to establishing his own business. He highlights his niche in working with small and medium-sized businesses, helping them address common managerial challenges. Blaine also emphasizes the importance of investing in people, diagnosing organizational needs before prescribing solutions, and the dangers of micromanagement, which he refers to as training for failure. As always, if you found value from this content, please like and subscribe. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Beyond Fulfillment podcast. I'm your host, Dave Goulas, and this week, my guest is the founder of Momentum Seminars, Training and Coaching, Blaine Little. Welcome, Blaine.
Dave, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being on the show.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time. So Blaine, you've been an entrepreneur for quite a while. Can you give us your backstory and how you got started?
Wow. It's just where I am now is just a culmination of a series of different lessons I had learned by somewhat being in the wrong places throughout my life, and just kind of found the right niche for me, which is public speaking as a corporate trainer and an author. But I started out when I left high school and went into the Army because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. But after the Army, I had a series of bad sergeants. So I knew that I wanted to do something maybe in business management. And so I went to Middle Tennessee State University, got the degree there, and I started doing some stuff in sales, but then I got into personal finance, which was insurance, annuities, mutual funds, investments. And I did enjoy that. But my father got an early retirement and he started doing real estate. And he said, "Hey, Blaine, I think you might like this." And it's something to where I wasn't in the office all day, but I wasn't out of the office all day. It was a nice variety of scenery. And so I've actually had my real estate license for about 25 years. And unfortunately, I had my first boss was just horrible. You would go in to ask a question and they would say, just kind of belittle you for not knowing the answer. Well, 25 years later, and now I have my broker's license, I realized that individual never knew what the answers were. And so rather than just say, "Hey, I don't know what the solution is, but I can help you solve the problem," like a good leader would, I just found some great mentors and started learning some things, and I started training other realtors, and I still do. And people said, "Hey, you're really pretty good at that. Why don't you do more than just real estate?" And so I have. And 2017 alone, I was about 100 all-day seminars, workshops on better communication skills, leadership, team building. And it's something that I really enjoyed. I was with another service at that time. And there's some things, like with any employee, you agree with, you don't agree with. And so I just kind of decided to go out on my own. And so that's what I've done. And now I work with small to medium-sized businesses and help them grow their production by investing in their people.
Freight shippers, are you tired of dealing with unreliable freight brokers? Tired of delays, missed delivery appointments, and no one to talk to? Tired of unpleasant surprises, reclass, reweighs, and the invoice always being higher than the quote? Well, you can enjoy a better freight experience with SPI Logistics. I joined SPI as a freight agent to deliver that better freight experience to our 3PL customers. SPI has 30,000 vetted and approved carriers, all modes of transportation, so we can tailor the equipment to the shipment, and the fully trained and experienced operations team who is always available to help. and you'll get the same quality customer service that you've come to expect when you deal with me. If you've got freight to move, go to freightbydave.com. That's freightbydave.com. All right, so quite an interesting journey you've had up until now. So you started the entrepreneurial stuff, I guess, with doing the real estate, right? In terms of being a realtor, and then
Yeah.
you started training other realtors, and
Yeah.
then that led to people asking you to train other types of positions.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing for me was, I think I knew early on, especially after the Army. I mean, I'm proud of my service. I was honorably discharged and everything, but for me, I just knew that that was, not the road I wanted to go. I really wanted to just be my own boss. And there's a lot of freedom that comes with being your own boss, but then some days your own boss can be a real jerk. And just not some days are rough, and that's just kind of the way it is. But you take the good with the bad and you just keep moving forward.
All right, so that with the seminars, so you got like how did that develop when you got, I guess, recruited to be with the seminar company? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I was with them for about 2.5, 3 years, and it's a good company. It's called Skill Path. A lot of people have heard of them, and they also own another company as well, so you would be under either of those flagships. But after a few years of teaching that information, some people started asking me certain questions. Well, what about this? What about that? And so I just kind of started giving my own experience or expertise. And after a while, I started putting together my own curriculum. And so I would write all these. I would just write things down, any ideas that I had that could have been more beneficial to the workshop that I was conducting. And that was the thing. They gave me the flexibility. They said, you have to teach all of these, 21 or however many topics, aspects, but you can add on to it. And so sometimes I would be adding a lot, maybe about a third of the workshop would be stuff that was beneficial for the attendees. But I just started creating my own curriculum.
Okay. And then so you get asked questions, you're creating the curriculum, you realize that you have a lot more to share than kind of the box you're in with with the corporate company. And then
Yeah.
what made you finally decide to go out on your own?
Um, like I say, great company, and there's about a half a dozen of those types of companies, but they all seem to run pretty much on the same model. Fred Pryor is another one that was kind of the original one, and everybody else is copying them. They don't pay well. They do pay your expenses, all your travel. And so I would go out on the road, and they would fly me into an area, and then I would rent a car, and for the whole week I would be in 4 or 5 different cities day after day, and then they'd fly me back home. But you really did not make that much money at it. And so I just thought, look, I enjoy travel, and I enjoy training. I love to see those little light bulbs come on. But I just thought I could do a better job with some of my own material, and just kind of focus instead of just inviting the public. And I have done some public workshops, but really my niche now is try to for corporate clients. And so I've got some clients who will bring me back each year to do a couple of hours of managerial training for their management. And that's really, really very important, because about 3 or 4 years ago, Forbes wrote an article, and they had actually linked up with career builders to do the study. And they found that I think it's over 80%. I want to say it's 82% of all first time managers have received not just a little bit of management training, none, zero, nothing at all. And so I have something for different tiers of management. I have done billion-dollar corporations and help facilitate their strategic planning for the year. But then I've also done where if this is your first time as a manager, here we go. And I wrote a book that is essentially the 8 managerial challenges. And there's 8 things in there that I talk about that seem to be constant, repetitive mistakes that managers make and how to overcome those and break that cycle.
Okay. All right, so you found a niche there within training managers specifically, you even wrote a book. Let me just ask you, so when you made the decision to go out on your own, like what was it like getting started in terms of did things take off like you expected?
No. No, I think I really did not calculate, and I had done things in sales, but didn't really calculate the amount of time and effort that would be put into business development. And it's just the sales calls. And I'm fine with rejection. But you have to understand as an entrepreneur, if you're a one-trick pony and that's what I am. I may bring on some more trainers eventually, but everything that I do is from me. And you just really have to go out and kind of hit the bricks and so to speak, call people and call on corporations. And if they're what I found is that my sweet spot is a company that will have between 12 and 200 employees. Because if you get to a company that has 300 or 400 employees, they probably have their in-house trainer. And even if that trainer is doing more of the technical side of things, they may say, well, we'll just task this person to do some of the professional development, like managerial training. And that may not necessarily be their skill set, but it's hard to get in when they have someone's name on a door and it says trainer. So a lot of the smaller companies are really just kind of struggling to get their people on board with what makes for good leadership.
Okay. And so you encountered some early resistance, and like how did you overcome that?
Well, I have a pretty good support system of other trainers, other corporate facilitators, and you would think that we would all be sort of at odds with one another, but most professional speakers are actually pretty giving of their experience and their wisdom. And so I have some very good people that I would call on and just kind of ask, what do you think of this marketing idea? Or, what do I need to do in terms of, just getting in front of more people? And one bit of, and that's where you have to have enough of your own experience to understand when you are getting really good information. And most of the time I do. But then when something is just not going to fit for your corporate culture, for what you do. And I've had several people who are great public speakers. They're making $30,000-$40,000 a speech, one speech. Will tell me that, well, you need to pick your lane. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. 1,000 times you got to pick your lane. And basically you develop one speech, maybe two, that's kind of a derivative of the first one, and you just stick with that and you just present that over and over and over again. And no doubt they make a lot of money at it. But I don't know, Dave, maybe I have ADHD or something. I can't just do the one thing for the rest of my life. So what's different is that I really am a school, if you will, and I can teach all of those things as it comes to professional development, like better communication skills. I don't teach accounting, bookkeeping, how to clean machinery or anything like that. But yeah, and that's it. If you can find a number of good people, and there's a guy, Terry, really good friend of mine, who was really instrumental in helping me out and just kind of shedding light on a lot of things. and pointing me in the right direction. So you just take that from, you got to build your support group. So you have to go out and you have to meet some of these people. And I've actually heard that, Dave, from a lot of people in various industries, that the so-called competitors are actually very, very helpful in getting others started.
Okay, interesting. All right. So you're dealing with this niche of small businesses, like you said, 12 to 200 employees typically, and you're focusing on managerial and leadership training and those types of skills. When you're working with these companies, what do you find are some of the biggest challenges that they're having?
Well, the nice thing about the managerial, if they want to bring me in for a first-time managers sort of workshop or new to management workshop, is that's pretty much the case, and I can just outline and go through the information there. But sometimes I'll talk to an owner or someone in the C-suite, and they'll say that, well, here's a challenge, and I try to diagnose before I prescribe, to find out what is it that they want to see accomplished at the end of the workshop. What's their result that they are looking for, rather than just what I think they need. But sometimes that might come at odds. um, they'll be describing something, and I'm thinking, okay, well, so do you need some leadership training for management, or for even the C-suite maybe? And like, no, they're just not doing what it is that we want them to do. Well, okay, communication is the foundation of good leadership. And so sometimes it might be that the people are, they're a good group of people, but maybe leadership is the people who need to hear the message. And so you got to kind of be delicate about that, and still provide what it is that they bring you in for. But then, you have to kind of tell them, look, yeah, you're kind of micromanaging everyone. And I call micromanagement training for failure, because when you micromanage people, then what you're telling them is that their work doesn't matter, and that you are going to come around the next day and change up everything anyway. So they just shrug and say, well, why should I even try? And so I've had that conversation, like, I think your level of guidance, they always call it guidance, is a little overbearing. And if you just give them some free reign, let them. But what if they make a mistake? And I always assure them they will make mistakes, but let them make the $10 mistakes versus the $10,000 mistakes, and just let them sort of grow into the position that you hired them for in the first place.
Yeah, I love that. Micromanaging is training for failure. I haven't heard it put that way, but that makes perfect sense.
Well, it's in my book.
Oh, all right. And so speaking of your book, you've written 3 books, is that right?
I have. The first one was Managerial Misunderstandings, Missteps, and Miscommunications. I think I named it there just to trip up podcast hosts so they can't repeat it. So I'm actually going to be rebranding that hopefully next month as the 8 Managerial Challenges. And that's the first one that I wrote. And then the second one that came out a little over a year ago is the individual team, how fairness wrecked the workplace. And I mean, it pretty much goes to that. It's not a political book, but in today's culture, Dave, you really kind of have to hit some of the nonsense that's just going on. And so I've had owners and leaders and managers say, Blaine, I know my people love me because I'm fair with them. I treat them all the same. You're making your people mad and resent you, because people are not the same. And if they're on your direct team, you really have to get to know them and their personality. And that's just a really big part of it. But this issue of sameness is a farce. It doesn't work. People resent that, and you'll get the most out of them by pushing them towards their excellence, their personal best.
Okay. All right. And, you launched your professional speaking career. I think you said you went on your own 2017-ish. Is that right?
Yeah. I was actually doing training. I've been doing training for about 20 years, but yeah, to go with Momentum Seminars training and coaching. Yeah, about 2017, 2018.
Okay. And then as we progressed a few years in, one of the things, the events that was very tough on the event in the speaking space was the pandemic. So what was that process like, navigating the change in the world when no one really knew what was going on at first?
Yeah. Yeah, a few things. I learned a lot, which is great. I'm still here. I had been writing my first book, The Eight Managerial Change Challenges, for about 2.5, 3 years when COVID hit in 2021. And so a lot of people will ask me, hey, what does it take to write a book? And I tell them 3 years plus a pandemic because I had nothing else to do. All my gigs canceled. We weren't having conferences anymore. And so I had no excuse to not finish that book. And I did. And one of those chapters was called The Individual Team. It's exactly what I was just talking about a few minutes ago. It's this issue of sameness, treating everyone the same, and how that's actually disruptive. That brought about the second book that I wrote. And but yeah, I tell everyone about 3 years in a pandemic. But I also had to get very good at webinars because people still needed some training, and there were still conferences and they just online, and they wanted a keynote speaker to do about a 45-minute motivational speech. I hate being called a motivational speaker because I just, we may, it's hard to say that I'm going to motivate someone to do something, but yet I'm not in their life. So, but anyway, just as a professional speaker, I had to get really good at webinars. And it's a different craft. Writing, public speaking, webinars, coaching one on one, those are all different crafts. The information is the same, but they have to be delivered in different ways. And so I think I really just learned a lot. And in fact, you remind me, I really haven't been pursuing a lot of webinars. They're still around. People love to get back in person again. But yes, there are some webinars still around, and I need to contact and follow up on more of those.
Okay. All right. And then with everything you've overcome and grown your business over these past 7, 8 years. So what does it look like for you in 2025? What does your business look like?
2025. I'm not a revolutionary. I believe that if you want to develop your business or to develop you, don't wait till January 1st. That's ridiculous. Don't wait to make a New Year's revolution or a resolution. Just wherever you are, just begin. But I did start back in late November for about a year, about 12 months. I wanted to do a number of these sort of wonderful podcasts and radio shows and TV, and just have about 75 different media outlets. Um, Also, gonna just kind of hold my feet to the fire a little bit more with being conscious about my calling. Um, I'm in business development because I'm the type of person to where I'll make a bunch of calls and I'll prospect, and then I'll get, 3 or 4 things lined up, and I focus on those things and want to give really great customer service, and I drop the sales calling, the prospecting, and then I got to start all over again. So those are a couple of things that I'm going to do. But rather than saying I want to make X amount of money, it really is it's the tasks that you do that bring you to the goal. That's what's important. And so just with those couple of things, getting my name out and making good quality prospecting calls, that's gonna really make the difference in 2025.
All right. And Blaine, if people want to get in touch with you and learn more about your training, or any of the work you do, what's the best way people can reach out to you?
Best thing to do is just, as you can see my URL up there, momentumseminars.com. You can find out me. You can purchase any of my books there. I have 3 books. I've got another one on interpersonal communications, which should be out in February, early March at the latest. And that's the best way to contact me. All my contact information is there.
All right. And we'll link all that in the show notes for everyone. All right. Well, Blaine, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and sharing all this wisdom from your journey with our audience. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you having me.
All right. And that's all the time we have for now. We will see you next time.